What is up, everybody, and welcome to Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Live. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, aka Celtics.Everyday. Alongside of me tonight, or rather above me, Ian Anangelo, aka at @Anangelo on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and of course at Boston Sports Hour, aka Nick Franco, above me tonight. And whew, the Boston Celtics 136-86, guys, a 50-point win at the Garden going into All-Star break. We could not have drawn this game up any better going into break. The Celtics reached 43 wins on the season going into All-Star break. Now 43-12 on the year, guys. This one was a steamrolling performance for the Boston Celtics. We'll start with you, Franco, over here. Your initial thoughts, and then we'll go to Ian.
What a game heading into the All-Star break. I mean, you couldn't have finished it off a better way. This is one of those games that you could have expected the team to half-ass and come in with a lower energy level and just be trying to get into the break, but they finished off the season with a bang. They were able to come in strong, being able to, in the first quarter, get the lead up to what it was. Defensively active throughout the game. The zone was active. Kristaps Porzingis was a presence, and he only had to play until the first half was over. Jason Tatum was the quarterback tonight. I mean, 9 assists tonight, and his presence alone, he didn't have to be the lead scorer and was able to open up opportunities for everyone else on the court to get those scoring opportunities because his presence alone creates such a distraction for the other team or the Brooklyn Nets and draws so much attention. And he can just dish it out to Derek White or Kristaps Porzingis. And it was just a full-blown great show tonight.
Yeah, this isn't the first time the Celtics have blown a team out by 50 this season, but it feels like this was their most dominant win of the year. Every single person was clicking on all cylinders. Now that I've seen Headband Derek White for the first time, I need to see it for the rest of the season. He was absolutely cooking tonight. Peyton Pritchard was cooking tonight. O'Shea Brissett, low-key had a sneaky, really good game tonight. There was just a lot of people who were just having an all-around great game tonight. Everybody was hitting their shots, and it kind of looked like the Brooklyn Nets were already on vacation halfway through this game. So,
I mean, oh my goodness, Ian, look at the lead tracker tonight. I think that's very evident in the lead tracker. This is the most embarrassing lead tracker of the entire season for any NBA team, or at least it has to be top 10. This is what Cancun looks like, guys. This is what the flight path to Cancun looks like. That's what the Brooklyn Nets were trying to illustrate with this lead tracker tonight, because my goodness, a 56-point lead at one point for the Celtics in a wire-to-wire win. The Brooklyn Nets simply had no chance. And even on the broadcast, Eddie House was mentioning it halfway through the game. Mikal Bridges typically celebrates normally by pointing towards the bench with his three fingers, the celebration, he's real hyped up. And tonight it was just kind of that, ooh, I'm going to half-ass this celebration. Ooh, we're down 30. And it was near halftime. You see that little dip or that rise by the Celtics right after half. That really put this game away when look at how many bars are on this graph tonight. Typically there are only a couple because we're within that 10, 15, 20 point range of an opponent, but tonight we have to expand it all the way to almost 60 because of our 56-point lead. That's just absolutely astronomical for this game. And there are just multiple points where it doesn't look like the Celtics are leading by that much, specifically right after halftime right there. Doesn't look like it's that much relative to our big lead and to other lead trackers, but it certainly is. Look at that. That's a 45-point lead right after half. 45. I mean, this win for the Celtics, it was different. An absolute different win. Last night, solid win in Brooklyn. 8-point win. Celtics led throughout most of the contest and came away with a nice solid victory at the end and fended off the Nets. Tonight, from the jump, it was over. It was absolutely over. It was 16-4 early on, and then eventually it was 44-17. And at that point, we were going into All-Star break. We were simply going into All-Star break, and somebody who potentially this All-Star break we're not going to see much of him at All-Star weekend in Indianapolis, if not at all. You might, you never know. This player might show up for the dunk contest, might hold the camera up, might support his guys because of who's participating. But our player of the game tonight, Derek White, he made an All-Star case tonight against the Brooklyn Nets without, of course, an All-Star case needing to be made as the All-Stars are already selected, of course. But Derek White, 27 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Look at that plus minus. Typically, we do not add plus minus into player of the game graphics, or we don't typically even consider plus minus because of the different units on the floor. But a plus 44 is worth mentioning for Derek White's stat line tonight. And even you see on the bottom, 11 of 16 from the floor and 6 of 9 from three. Super efficient performance from Derek White. And he didn't have to do all that much because looking at his minute total in this game, only 27 minutes played. So 27 points in 27 minutes for Derek White. And the one thing I'm missing on this graphic, guys, the one thing, the headband. It was headband night for Derek White. And I believe that was what was giving him superpowers along with Mr. Jason Tatum and the rest of the team. But Franco, I'm going to start with you. Your thoughts on Derek White's performance tonight, along with the rest of the teams.
And that's going to become a promotion in TD Garden. I think we might see that become a thing. The white headbands, the headband boys. It would be really dope to see the entire starting lineup come out wearing headbands one night, white headbands. But man, oh man, what a performance from Derek White tonight. He was able to rise up with Jalen Brown out of the rotation tonight. And when he's able to get his consistent shots, and the shots he was making were unreal, and he was able to get into the paint and find his easy looks, and it was almost as if, like I said, he was being able to move off ball and set up his own shots with Jason Tatum setting him up, and the team was just moving as a fully moving function, and I think they really were just clicking on all cylinders. And if they just keep this up, I think heading into the All-Star break, they're the head contenders with no doubts in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of felt like kind of like more of like the 2021-2022 second half of the season type of win, honestly. Like just a absolute dominant, completely just wire to wire win. And Derek White was the huge catalyst to it. He absolutely put on a show. And honestly, like he's been having a little inconsistency with his jump shot recently, at least not up until the fourth quarter. But in this game, he didn't even have to play in the fourth quarter because, yeah, I mean, this was just an absolute blowout. And I don't know, it kind of feels like I don't know. It's weird because his jump shot isn't always going to be there, but it's always going to be there in the right time. And when you get games like this where it's just there the entire time, that's why, it shows that why we've been saying he could have been an all-star this season.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate he had this kind of performance so close to the All-Star break, because if he replaces one of those 2-point, 3-point performances early in January or midway through January with this performance tonight, we're maybe talking about a better All-Star case for Derek White than he currently had coming into the actual voting season and, as the voting season transpired, because Derek White, the impact he brings to the Celtics on both ends of the floor is evident night in and night out. And we spend a lot of time talking about other players. We spend a lot of time going back and forth about Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday. Both of those X factors. We have two X factors, guys. Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. Both of those X factors are amazing in their own right for the Celtics. But Derek White, he's another guy on the Celtics roster. We don't talk about him for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden, bam, a player on our roster is giving us 27 points, a plus 44 plus minus. And it will be noted, a lot of guys had crazy plus minuses. Drew Holiday had 3 points tonight, plus 31 on the night. So kind of illustrates the entire night for the team. But for Derek White to come out with this type of efficient performance on both ends of the floor and to score 27 points in 27 minutes when Isaiah Thomas was playing for the Celtics, if you did that, that was crazy. That was absolutely nuts because the type of pace you played with back then was not as high as it is today. And players who fit into today's game, I know we give a lot of I don't want to say scrutiny or criticism sometimes, and I'm a person who gives it, right, where I'm saying, oh, today's numbers, right? We're going to see better historic numbers over time and higher historic numbers because of the pace, because of the 3-point attempts. But ultimately, a lot of these players need to be praised for playing and fitting into today's game because just as back in the day, if you were a big guy back in the day, yes, you could be a legend for fitting into that game. Nowadays, it's not the same. Whereas today, Derek White, maybe he's not as effective in the 1990s in a more physical style of basketball. Yet today, in today's game, with the pace up and down the floor, Derek White is a player on the Celtics roster who can put up 27 points in 27 minutes. No, we don't expect him to do this every single night, but the Celtics have an embarrassment of riches, an absolute embarrassment of riches because Derek White, we haven't talked about him in what, a week and a half, 2 weeks. We're talking about Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis. Tatum has finally turned a corner. Brown's been super efficient. Derek White's just kind of lingering in the back, and then all of a sudden, tonight in a 50-point win, 27 points right off the bat, and it comes in essentially 2.5 quarters for the Celtics to have that kind of luxury on their roster. And I'm not even mentioning too this. Derek White won Player of the Game. There was a debate about Player of the Game with another player who I didn't even mention within the top 5, Mr. Peyton Pritchard, and he adds on to this all too alongside Derek White. To have these luxuries on the Celtics roster, it plays out for the Celtics positively going forward to have so many options to play with and to rely on. Maybe if one guy isn't on, right, one night, say Jaylen Brown, he's not feeling it. Maybe he makes 4 of 12 shots. Derek White, if he can put up a 20-point performance, if Kristaps Porzingis, if he's putting up 20 points, if Drew Holiday, if he can notch 20 points, if he can notch somewhere near that, the Celtics still have a chance. And for them to do what they did tonight, it's just another example of how good this team is. And I mentioned Peyton Pritchard within all of this. He was 11 of 16 tonight, 6 of 9 from 3-point land alongside Derek White. They both shot 6 of 9 from 3. And this is really the height of what these players can do from 3. I know we sometimes get a little, we don't want to see Derek White and Peyton Pritchard take 9 threes every single game. But if they're there like they were tonight, because the Brooklyn Nets, we haven't really talked about them yet at all. They were awful tonight. They didn't want to play in this game at all. And the Celtics, they saw a lot of open opportunities from the perimeter, especially Derek White, especially Peyton Pritchard. When you're honing in on other guys like Kristaps Porzingis, he did only play 16 minutes tonight. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But other guys like Jason Tatum and Drew Holiday as well. Drew Holiday's been hot as of late. And he even had a nice game last night. When you're honing in on guys like that, all of a sudden, when you're not putting the effort in, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, they're going to be streaking from 3 in a good manner with their variance. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Peyton Pritchard because we kind of went back and forth in the pregame. I shouldn't say pregame, the pre-post game meeting where we were saying who should be player of the game, right? It could have been Derek White, could have been Peyton Pritchard. We settled on Derek White. But Peyton Pritchard, in the second half, he had just as good of a game. And Franco, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on Peyton Pritchard's performance tonight at the Garden.
This is exactly what he needs to do if he wants to maintain his role on the Boston Celtics. And this is what was expected of him when we gave him this contract extension. extension. I think if he was on any other team, he would be seeing these types of minutes. Let's say he was on the Washington Wizards or any team of that sort. He would be when his usage rate is up this high. These are the games that you'll see out of Peyton Pritchard. This is why we saw preseason P, summer league Pritchard. I mean, when the game is given to him and the team allows him to, all right, Peyton, this is your time to light up the scoreboard, whether we're up by 10 or we're down by 15. We need a spark off the bench. That's exactly what we're expecting from him. And tonight, most of his points did come in the fourth quarter, but he was able to be that point guard and that playmaker, facilitator for the team with the rotational players, which is a great sign to see before heading into the after All Star break when more players are taking those nights off. Al Horford starts taking those nights off. Kristaps rehabs the ankle a little bit more before heading into playoffs. I I think when the bench is playing well, that means the starters are playing well because that means the bench is getting repetitions.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you want to see out of Peyton. We all know he can do this from time to time. It's just, will he do it consistently enough? Is kind of is the question that we have sometimes. And obviously, he doesn't have to drop 28 off the bench every single night. But when he's in his minutes, is he going to hit his shots? Is he going to, play defense a little bit? Is he going to rebound? It's just the stuff like that. And I think he did amazing tonight, even before the fourth quarter, where he scored most of his points. He was playing incredible, and I I know like sometimes we kind of have a weird opinion on Peyton Pritchard. Sometimes we don't really know if he's the guy that the Celtics need coming off the bench, but I don't know. He's been putting up better performances as time has gone on, so I'm starting to trust Pritchard a little more.
Peyton Pritchard is ultimately not a zero player. We definitely see the flaws within his game, and I believe those flaws make him a $7 million per year player. I think that's a fair salary for him moving forward, especially considering the cap will likely rise. The disclaimer of likely, came in about $1 million short of next season where everybody thought it was going to be. But as time moves forward, the cap should rise as time moves on. And considering Peyton Pritchard's salary of $7 million per year moving forward for, I believe, the next 3 years, starting next year's extension, right? 3 or 4 years starting next year, Peyton Pritchard going forward. The contract extension is completely fair for the type of player he is. There are some limitations, surely, physically on the defensive end of the floor, but we know how nasty he can get after it on the floor defensively on that end. And offensively, he's not a zero player. He can put up a performance like this if he's given. Rob was talking about it earlier, how Jason Tatum, he's 16th in the league in usage, yet putting up similar numbers to all these ball handlers everybody's so enticed with. Like, oh my goodness, Jalen Brunson, Trae Young, oh my goodness, SGA. Jason Tatum's putting up similar numbers to these guards with lesser usage. And we were talking about if Peyton Pritchard had a higher usage, he would be putting up better numbers. And we see tonight he played 31 minutes, shot the ball 16 times, 9 3-pointers. He shot 6 of 9 from 3, 11 of 16, as I mentioned earlier, and scored 28 points. There are some guards out there who come in, see a lot of opportunity, and simply cannot produce at the same level as Peyton Pritchard can on this Celtics team when he's asked to produce on a night like tonight where the Brooklyn Nets, they're not giving up. They're not giving too much effort. The Boston Celtics, they're ahead by 1 million. Peyton Pritchard can come in, be himself, and not really have to worry about fitting in with whichever lineup he's particularly in. And I know that later on down the line and in bigger games, he's going to have to fit into a specific role, and we're not going to see as big of numbers from him. But on a specific occasion like tonight, Peyton Pritchard, he's putting up a stat line in which is completely respectable by the rest of the league standards and even by the opponent When the Nets walk into the locker room, Jock Vaughn, when they're looking at film, what are they going to look at? They're going to look at Peyton Pritchard absolutely cooking the Brooklyn Nets, cooking themselves, rather. So Peyton Pritchard on a $7 million salary moving forward, yes, he could be used as a trade filler, a trade chip, or he can simply sit on the back end of the bench, in which he's done most of his career and will likely do a lot of places in his NBA career, unfortunately. I know for the Boston Celtics, yes, he could be a player that randomly fits here for the entirety of his NBA career, but I think he will likely move around, and we could see Peyton Pritchard in other situations be a nice sixth man type of player, spark plug off the bench for other teams, for other championship contending teams. Is he going to be a guy that you're going to rely on within your rotation in a starting five, or to be that first or second guy off the bench to, if you want to win a championship? Likely not, but he's still a player who's valuable to a championship level squad like the Celtics this year. And I believe he will be for later on down the line into his career. And his contract is completely fair for what the number is moving forward. And tonight, going into breakdowns, I unfortunately, Franco, do you have your soundboard ready here?
I do.
Can we get the soundboard out?
We do.
Let's hear it.
Glasses on.
This is what I was about to say. I don't have my glasses, but since it's all-star break, right? Break out these glasses. Break out these
Hey,
glasses. Last time we saw these glasses, we were 20-0 at home. 20-0. They're actually Patriots glasses. This will be a short breakdown, I will admit. There's only 2 plays because this game was a 50-point game. I mean, come on. There's how much can we really take away from this game? The Brooklyn Nets were completely sloppy, and this is really just the Peyton Pritchard breakdown. And it's going to exemplify a little bit of what the Nets just weren't giving in terms of their effort tonight. Here we go. First slide up here as we take the ticker down. Peyton Pritchard right here on the baseline against Day'Ron Sharpe. Just look at the Brooklyn Nets and their position right here. This is just awful. It's absolutely awful. Day'Ron Sharpe is leading Peyton Pritchard towards the baseline because Peyton Pritchard, he's saucing him up right now, giving him a couple crossovers. And look at Cam Johnson and his position right now. Look at his feet. He's what is Cam Johnson supposed to be doing here? Yes, he's under the rim and sort of defending the basket right now, which is what you want to do. You want to defend the basket, but he's not in the greatest of positions to pick up Cornet, nor is he in the greatest of positions to help when Peyton Pritchard is being funneled baseline here by Day'Ron Sharpe, which is a complete mismatch. And the Nets, they're just not in a great position to defend this play whatsoever. And Peyton Pritchard, he's attacking this with intent and with aggression. And on the next slide, Peyton Pritchard just completely explodes to the rim on this, and he gets a layup opportunity. And Cam Johnson, if he came over and helped on this, you'd potentially, this is where the Nets were just completely disengaged. The Nets, how this formed, the way Luke Cornet, he was in the lane on this first play, right? He's cutting towards the lane here, and if Peyton Pritchard cuts down and Cam Johnson comes over to help, that's a wide open layup for Luke Cornet. Instead, Luke Cornet cuts away from the basket here, and if I'm not mistaken, Dennis Schroeder comes over there and helps a little off of Luke Cornet, and Cam Johnson, when that happens, he doesn't even react. He's essentially in no man's land. If you have somebody covering Luke Cornet or about to tag him going towards the rim, and you're sitting there, either go to help or go to your man. It doesn't make any sense why Cam Johnson was just floating in the lane right here while his big guy was being completely beaten baseline by Peyton Pritchard. It's part of the disengagement that happened for the Nets tonight, and surely part of the engagement that we saw from Peyton Pritchard and the entire Celtics team. Now, this next play and our final play, because this one's a short one tonight, this one's just high screen and roll with Kristaps Porzingis, or rather pick and pop with Kristaps Porzingis on the wing. And again, Nets just not completely engaged, not in great position, not in great defensive stance right now. It just, nothing is going great for the Brooklyn Nets. Right here, Dennis Smith Jr., he's all right at fighting over this screen, and Kristaps sets a solid screen area. You look at how he's setting that screen. He's wide. He's as low as he can be for a 7'3" big guy. Sometimes it doesn't look like he's all that low, but he's 7'3", and he is fairly low on that screen for how tall he is and for what he's trying to do and move there. But Kristaps sets the screen very solidly. Peyton Pritchard comes off of it, and Day'Ron Sharpe, he's in this land where he's not exactly meeting Pritchard where he needs to, because Peyton Pritchard, he is hot tonight. He 6 of 9 on the night. He was somebody hitting threes from deep. He doesn't come and meet him up on the screen right here, and he kind of floats again in no man's land. And I will mention Lonnie Walker, I believe, on Jason Tatum right there. He doesn't really show help on this attempt. You don't have to give help right here, but you can certainly show it over on the top of the key. When you're sitting right there, if you're Lonnie Walker, no, you don't want to completely help off of Jason Tatum. But as Peyton Pritchard is making this drive, if Day'Ron Sharpe is so low and he's not going to get up there, Lonnie Walker can take a quick boom jab over there. And instead, he's just kind of loafed where he's at. He's loafed. He's just kind of sitting there. He doesn't really react to this play at all. And again, it symbolizes the Nets' disengagement within this game, especially on defense. And right here, Lonnie Walker, Peyton Pritchard makes a nice cut. He kind of drives towards Tatum a little bit, pulls Lonnie Walker over there, and pulls Mikal Bridges. And yeah, that was Mikal Bridges coming off. I don't know if I mentioned, I thought I said Dennis Smith Jr. earlier, but that's Mikal Bridges. And Day'Ron Sharpe, he drops so low on this, and he leaves 7'3" sharpshooter Kristaps Porzingis wide open from the wing right here. And this is really Nets disengagement partially, but also Nets versatility. They simply don't have the correct bodies to defend a team like the Boston Celtics when they have a player like Kristaps Porzingis out on the floor. And last night, yes, we beat the Brooklyn Nets by 8 points, but no Kristaps Porzingis. Tonight, Kristaps into the lineup for 16 minutes, and those 16 minutes were quite impactful. You see down the stretch, the Celtics pull out a 56-point lead at one point, and then eventually a 50-point win. But the Celtics and the Nets, they could not be farther away in where they are in their seasons right now. And I believe as Celtics fans, we are fortunate to be in the slot in which we're in currently, right? Because we could easily be in the Nets position of seeing a roster that has no versatility whatsoever, seeing a roster in which has no direction whatsoever. We could be in this situation right now. A lot of people advocated for it rather early on in time with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Said, oh man, this team with Tatum and Brown, they can't play together, right? We should split them up. You know, the East is too hard with KD, Kyrie, and James Harden on the Nets, right? And today, it's a different story. It's a completely different story between the two franchises. And despite me only showing 2 plays, we saw the disengagement of the Nets. We saw they're packing it in before All-Star break with a terrible record. They have a terrible record on the season. There's nothing to play for. There's nothing to lose for, rather, in terms of draft pick right now for the Nets. And there's no effort going into All-Star break. There's no particular direction at all. And it took 2 plays to see that. And you see the versatility on the roster. It just simply does not match up to the Celtics whatsoever. And this is where patience comes into play so much for a franchise, because if the Nets, they're simply patient back in 2019 with D'Angelo Russell and everyone on that roster, this result wouldn't have played out today as it did. Yet we see the 2 squads on court the last 2 games. They're miles and miles apart. Franco?
Yeah. That was time traveling back with the D'Angelo Russell roster in 2019, 5 years. You can even travel back 10 years on their impatience. And when they assembled the team that assembled what we are today with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum getting Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett out of here, and what they thought was the premium squad, and what when I was a kid I thought was the squad to beat: Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Brooke Lopez. And I mean, look at where the Celtics are now because of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy how far it's come. And I was talking about that yesterday. I was like, the rivalry between the Celtics and the Nets felt so grand for the last 5 years or so. Like, it was always going to be that thing where it's like, oh, we fleeced the Nets out of that trade to get Tatum and Brown, but the Nets were showing signs of becoming a legitimate title contender, and it would have been a little awkward if, with no picks, they were able to win a championship before the Celtics. So I don't know. I'm kind of happy that they were impatient, and honestly, it's kind of nice to see because Celtics are 11-1 since 11-1 versus the Nets since the playoffs in 2022.
That's absolutely insanity to think about because at that point in time, I remember during that series, Evan Fournier wearing number 94 for the Celtics. And I just remember during that series thinking, how did we get here? How did we get here? Because Ian said it perfectly, saying awkward. That is the exact word to use. It would have been awkward if the Brooklyn Nets win the title, specifically in 2021, because it looked like they were well on their way before Kyrie, James Harden, both of them go down in the playoffs. The Milwaukee Bucks eliminate them in the second round, the Brooklyn Nets in the second round, that is, in the semifinals. They looked well on their way, the Brooklyn Nets did. And at that point in time, if they would have walked away with the title, that would have been devastating to the Celtics' morale. Now, not saying that Tatum and Brown specifically on the roster would have been devastated, but certainly the Celtics fan base, which, geez, that would have killed the history of the KG Paul Pierce trade in which we'd celebrated for essentially an entire decade after it happened. They would have completely killed the narrative of that entire story, and the Celtics' history would have been tainted in some way. And yet today, the Brooklyn Nets, they fail. KD, Kyrie, James Harden, all on different rosters. We're beating the Nets by 50 and 11-1 since that moment in which Kyrie stepped on the logo, the Celtics logo. And that was a moment in which we're looking at the Celtics roster and the Nets roster going, oh my goodness, we're going to have to deal with this for 4 or 5 years. We're going to have to deal with this gauntlet Nets team for 4 or 5 years while we somehow have to figure it out with Brown and Tatum and Fournier and Tristan Thompson and Kemba Walker and Robert Williams and Marcus Smart. We're going to have to somehow figure it out with these players while the Brooklyn Nets, they're just a completely stacked roster. And instead, 2024, the Brooklyn Nets, completely obsolete in the Eastern Conference. I mean, if they make the play-in, it's not even going to matter. They're out of the play-in right now, while the Celtics hold the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I'm sure there will be a day in time in which the Nets become better than the Celtics again, because this is just how NBA history works. But it's not tonight. It's not today. It's not this era whatsoever. And the Brown and Tatum era is very much alive, while the Nets, the Mikal Bridges era and the Cam Johnson era and the Ben Simmons era, it's going.
It's something.
It
is something.
It's going. But thankfully for the Nets and thankfully for the Celtics as well, because the Celtics, they were skidding a little bit coming into All-Star break. They were skidding, not playing their best basketball, but over the last 3 games, the Celtics, they've really turned on the Jets and proved to us that they want to win this season. At some point in time, we question, oh man, is this team, are they forming bad habits? Are they forming the wrong habits? Well, the last 3 games, I think we can comfortably say the team has turned the corner for the better, and especially going into All-Star break. This is what we wanted to see, and that's what I was going to say. All-Star break is here, fellas. The All-Star weekend is upon us. It's one of the best weekends of the year in the entire NBA, one of the more fun weekends. Yes, there's competition, but it's not necessarily as serious as the playoff competition, not exactly as serious as competition later on down the line that will affect teams' rosters, players' situations, and ultimately people's lives in general. The NBA All-Star Weekend starts on Friday, and we're going to go through our picks, right, guys? We're going to go through our picks. And should we start with the Rising Stars Challenge? Because this season it's a little strange. We've been flopping back and forth on formats.
I'll have to pull up the rosters real quick. Hold on.
Go ahead, Franco, because I had to do the same thing. I want to shout out right now. If I had to suggest which format to pull up, USA Today, because USA Today has all of the rosters, has all of the competitions in order. I was trying to find it, and this is where I'm going to call out the NBA right now. The NBA, they have the rosters available for each competition, right? But they're all split up into different articles, all in different places. You have to pull up different items to actually see it. There may be one article with all of them out there. They may come up with one before the weekend, but right now, USA Today has the best resource for this. So I don't know, Franco, if I could give you the advice on that one or stall for
I
you.
think
Right
I found it.
but
I got a decent one.
but on Friday night we'll have the Rising Stars Challenge. Completely losing my track here. And this format is a little different. It's not World USA. It's not sophomore, freshman. It's Tamika versus Pau, right? Tamika Catchings and Pau Gasol. And this is rookie versus sophomore, though, right? This I actually said it's not rookie versus sophomore, but it still is, if I'm not mistaken, because on one hand you have Wemby's team with Wemby, Brandon Miller, Pajinski, Jaime Jaquez, Jabari Smith, Kason Wallace, Bilal Coulibaly. My lord. I said that name probably 7 times on Friday when we said the Wizards, and I got off the broadcast and went, how did I say that name so fluently that often? Yet I come on here, botch it immediately. On the other side, Vince Williams Jr., Scoot Henderson, Dyson Daniels, Keontae George, Keegan Murray, Jalen Duran, Jaden Ivey, and of course, Paulo Banchero at the top. So those are your Rising Stars team rosters for Friday night. And Franco, who do you have in this game?
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go with Team Tamika, or actually, I I found my team, Team Jalen, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams,
Oh, there's
Benedict
more. There's
Mathurin,
way more.
Shaden
Yeah,
Sharp,
there's 4 teams. Yeah, I
Oh
think you
my
only said 3.
goodness.
Derek Lively, Jordan Hawkins, Walker Kessler, and Jeremy Sochan. I think that roster is huge. I mean, I think what are they gonna do? I think they're gonna have to run. You're gonna run Shed at the 3, but yeah, I think Team Jalen's probably the best built team.
Yeah, completely forgot about Team Jalen. Hold up, Ian, right before you go, real quick. Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, Benedict Mathurin, Shaden Sharp, Derek Lively, Walker Kessler, Jordan Hawkins, and Jeremy Sohan, all laced on a team together as well. Amoni Bates, Mac McClung, Alondis Williams, Oscar Tshiebwe, Tyler Smith, Ron Holland, Matthijs Bozelis, and Izan Almansa. That's also a roster as well. So just
That's
to
the
explain
G.
that before
Yeah,
you go.
that's the
Yeah.
G League Ignite team.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the G League team. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of high on Team Pow. Team Pow has Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Brandon Pazimski, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Jabari Smith Jr., Kason Wallace, and Bilal Coulibaly. Low key, Team Pow's looking kind of nice right now.
What is the split for this? So they have the G League team. Do they have?
Yeah. So Team Detlef is all the G League players. Team Jalen, Tamika, and Pow, I think they all did like a draft, and they all like drafted who they wanted on their teams.
Okay, at first I was like, wait a minute, is this rookie sophomore? Because at the top you see, okay, Ivy, Banchero, Miller, Wembanyama on the NBA site, right? Then you go down, you're like, wait a minute, there's no rhyme or reason
So this
for
is
any of
why
this.
I say
G
bring
League
back.
team, and then it's right. But this competition is always interesting because it's a question of who is going to show up, who's going to shoot the most threes, who's going to actually care. Because this is a competition, it is bracket, right? They're facing each other, and there
Okay.
is somewhat of a competitive nature to these guys to want to do well at All-Star Weekend. And no, it's not going to be that intense, but in this situation, give me Banchero's team. Give me Paulo Banchero's team. I don't care which situation we're in, whether it's regular season, All-Star Weekend, playoffs. Give me Banchero's team because I believe that man one day we're going to be talking about him as a rival to the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference because he's already there, folks. In his second year, he's coming. He's truly coming. I don't think enough people are paying attention to the Orlando Magic, the type of season they're having, but Paulo Banchero is becoming a player I look at and go, man, if I have him on my roster, we're going to have a chance. We are going to have a chance. And that's why I'm going to pick Team Tamika in the Rising Stars Challenge on Friday night. Give me Banchero's team. Anytime you have Banchero
Wow,
on your roster, I think you have a chance.
We all went 3 different directions.
Yeah, I don't trust the G League team. The G League team.
Yeah, no,
normally does
Team
well.
Detlef, I don't think is the greatest idea. I think that should just be like those players should be in the G League All-Star game instead. But
Which JD Davison from the Celtics is going to be there?
oh, he is.
So you guys don't
He
believe in a team with Izan Almansa? Or
I mean,
The fact that you can't
That's
even
Jose
pronounce
Davis.
half the team, I don't have too many high
and the
hopes on that.
players that I know, like I know Imani Bates is a highlight reel player, great G League player. I think maybe one day could find himself getting some minutes on the back end of someone's roster in the NBA. But Mac McClung is really a showboat player. Like I think this team was selected from overtime.com.
no, I was thinking that okay, this is like having Jordan Walsh in a Rising Stars competition if you're going to put Imoni Bates in there. Now, I will disclaim Imoni Bates is maybe a little bit better than Jordan Walsh right now, but Imoni Bates, Jordan Walsh, they're both essentially two-way players. You're putting a two-way player in this matchup with other names such as Jordan Hawkins, such as Paulo Banchero, Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, future stars or great role players rather in this league as well, depending on who I just named there. And the other team, it's certainly interesting to showcase these names in this way because on one hand, they could go out there, compete, surprise everybody, and you never know. Teams are watching this type of event and they go, oh, wait a minute. Who is Tyler Smith? Oh, wait, Ron Holland. Haven't been watching much of him. Maybe I need to pay more attention to him, or maybe we should have him on our radar a little bit more. Or it could go the other way where this is supposed to be a showcase event for these players, and then all of a sudden it's, I'm not really feeling Imoni Bates. I'm not really feeling Tyler Smith out there too much. So Rising Stars Challenge, a little interesting considering the stipulations put in place this season. We could see the G League team win considering they're more competitive coming in theoretically or supposed to be than all of the NBA teams and players who are drafted high and already have nice NBA contracts, even though they might be on the rookie deals. Still pretty nice deals today in the NBA if you land a rookie contract. Some of these other guys, they might not be on those deals. Maybe there is more competitive nature to come out and actually compete, and we might see the G League team walk away with this. But moving on, the next competition will be on Saturday night, the skills competition. Now this one,
Ooh.
they guys, this one we might have to cherish this moment just a little bit. I'm just saying, because this might be the last skills challenge for years. Who knows? It's just
God,
a
I hope
time
so.
filler. It really is just a massive time filler and hoopla for the All-Star Weekend and NBA All-Star Saturday night. The skills challenge. Can you guys name a classic skills challenge? That classic skills
Wait,
challenge. I'm sure we can.
You can't remember Team Cavs from a couple years ago when Jared Allen hit a half court shot. You can't, and when they beat Team Antetokounmpo, you don't remember that absolute banger of a skills challenge.
When Giannis
That was when the All-Star
were in
was in
the
Cleveland.
skills challenge somehow.
Yeah. when Thanasis and Alex Antetokounmpo were with Giannis in the.
I'm thinking of the days when Joel Embiid, like Al Horford, didn't we have someone win the skills challenge?
Jason Tatum won it.
Yeah.
Back in
over Trae Young.
2020,
With the
his
half
rookie year.
court
Yeah.
shot,
Yes.
Yeah, with the half court
But
shot.
look,
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
that is not even memorable. Like, that happened.
Honestly, I liked that skills challenge more than what they do now. So
That happened.
Yeah,
but
the
it's like, we didn't
one-on-one.
remember right off the bat for the skills challenge. So this is why it's like we need to cherish this moment, because this might be the last time we're talking about it in 5 years. If they could take it away for 5 years, bring it back. You never know. They've done it with the dunk contest before. They've done it with other contests. The skills challenge losing a little bit of zest, I must say. And the participants, this to me is just a little bit random.
Yeah,
just a little
I'm
too
looking at it.
random for my taste. Team Pacers, yes, they're the home team of the All-Star Weekend, Indianapolis, right? Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, Miles Turner will represent Team Pacers. Team top picks. Okay. All right.
all right.
Interesting. Boncaro, right? 5 Boncaro, have a chance. Anthony Edwards and Victor Wembanyama. Might as well call this team future NBA. We'll say that. I mean, might as well call that future NBA. Team top picks. Team All-Stars. Oh, this is why they had to name Scotty Barnes an All-Star, eh? To
Team All-Star Reserve.
to put this label on this team. Scotty Barnes, Tyrese Maxey, and Trae Young make up Team All-Stars. And this skills competition, again, random. I don't understand.
Franco, do you have a booing sound effect on your
Yeah.
soundboard?
Let's. Why did that sound like a mixed reaction of when a player comes back to an arena and it's like, some people liked him, some people didn't like him, and it's like, oh.
All right.
That's the sound. That's the theme music. The skills.
That's the vultures. That's the vultures circling around the skills contest right now.
All right. Who do you guys have here? Who do you guys have?
I got team top picks. I'm going team top picks.
I think everyone's gonna go team top picks. I mean, they are more skilled than the All-Star team, the Team All-Star team, and the only thing Team Pacers is gonna have going for them is the hometown cheering, maybe. But I feel like most of the people at the All-Star game who bought tickets aren't even Pacer fans.
Well, this skills competition, I personally believe. Looking back, we're probably going to look at this skills competition if we ever look at the rosters ever again, which we may never look at this skills competition roster ever again after tonight, or rather Saturday night after the skills competition happens, because this is just how these things go. But we're going to look back going, man, team top picks, they were better than the All-Stars, and the All-Stars, that's just a funny name. Just like, it would be like looking back and having the team top picks, say like 1996, you'd have Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, and Allen Iverson. But then the All-Stars, you might, see names who are not as great as them back then in that day. And I think we're going to look back at this and think the same way, because Wembanyama, Anthony Edwards, Boncaro, they're generational talents. And Scotty Barnes, Maxey, Trae Young, not quite as generational. Yes, All-Stars. Yes, very good players, but not quite as generational. However, that's who I'm picking in this competition. I'm picking the Team All-Stars because I think all of these players are going to be
All-Stars?
Yeah. Scotty Barnes, Tyrese Maxey, Trae
Young. Did you watch like a few years ago when Scotty Barnes and Tyrese Maxey did the skills contest and how they missed every single shot?
That is why they're number one, variance. Number two, motivation. A couple of years ago, they didn't do well. Trae Young, too, like he saw a skills competition rock.
Trae Young lost to Tatum.
Right out from under him. I mean, Trae Young was ahead in that skills competition. He was ahead of Jason Tatum. Remember, he was ahead of him in the
He was going to win, too, if Tatum didn't hit that shot. So
right. And he's had one stolen from him. Maxey, Barnes, they're on their return. They have to make their comeback, right? And I believe this is going to be the spot where they go, yeah, all these other players are going to have all-star appearances perennially over us, right? The Wimbenyamas of the world, the Anthony Edwards of the world, and of course, completely forgot my other name here, Boncaro, of course, of the world. These guys are going to be, they're going to have accolades way beyond Maxey, way beyond Barnes, way beyond Trae Young. All right. However, in this specific competition, these guys are going to win. They're going to come out and they're going to prove that we're Team All-Stars. We're here right now, and we want to win this competition tonight because of how awful we've done in the past. However, moving on to the next competition. Now, I'm gonna kind of go out of order here because I'm gonna leave one for last. All right, but next competition, 3-point contest. Another random swath of names coming into the 3-point contest. We have Damian Lillard, Malik Beasley, Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, and Laurie Markkinen. And Trae Young, you never know, he might be too tired from the skills competition to perform in the 3-point competition. But those are your participants. Franco, I'm going to start with you. Who do you have in the 3-point competition?
3-point competition this year, I would have to go with looking at the list. I'll go with the underdog Tyrese Halliburton, hometown hero. I'll let them get that hometown win. I'll take.
Yeah. I'm going back and forth between Tyrese Halliburton and Laurie Markkinen. I don't know why. I feel like Laurie Markkinen can be good in this contest for some reason. But I'm gonna go Tyrese Halliburton. I think Halliburton, he's gonna have the hometown fans behind him. He's automatic from 3, even though his jump shot looks like he's physically in pain every single time he shoots it. And but yeah, I'm going Halliburton. Even though Dame is last year's champion, I'm still going Halliburton.
I'm going Damian Lillard back to back. Here we go. This is Dame Dollars moment. This is Dame Dollars competition. He's meant to be in this competition. And I believe
34% 3-point shooter this season, by the way.
I'm just saying, Ian, I believe that Dame Dollar, when you get him going, when he's wide open, right? When he's wide open, this man, he's one of the craziest gym shooters. Because look at the name right under him that I mentioned. Malik Beasley, right? Milwaukee Bucks, Malik Beasley. If I'm not mistaken, Malik Beasley had a story about owning a gym record with the Milwaukee Bucks on 3-pointers hit in a row, his streak of 3-pointers hit in a row. Damian Lillard comes in the building, right? Second day, third day, gone. Record broken, gone. Damian Lillard's record stands in Milwaukee over Malik Beasley's. And I believe Damian Lillard, this is his moment. This is his type of competition. In regular season games, we're going to have lengthier defenses, more athletic defenses, be able to compromise his 3-point shot. And I think it tells a story within that 34% 3-point percentage on the year. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. However, wide open in this type of event where he's just shooting in rhythm over and over again, it's why we saw him win last year, and I believe it's why we're going to see him win again this year. I have Damian Lillard in this year's 3-point competition. But moving on, guys, this next competition, I feel like I shouldn't even ask you guys about this contest at all. Who's gonna win the dunk contest? Who's gonna win the dunk contest?
Jacob Toppin.
Between Mr. Jacob Toppin, right? Mr. Jacob Toppin, Mac McClung, Jaime Jaquez, and who's that fourth guy? Who's that? Jaylen Brown. Right, Jaylen Brown's in the dunk contest this year. First All-Star in the dunk contest for quite a while. Guys, who do you have in this year's dunk contest?
Actually, do you want to know the last All-Star to do a dunk contest? 2014, John Wall was the last All-Star to do the dunk contest. And he won it. So
a decade.
Actually, wait, what year did Blake Griffin jump over the car?
2012?
I don't know. Either way, it's been that long
And
since we've
Dwight,
seen an
when
actual
Dwight
All-Star.
Howard was Superman.
11.
Oh, true. Yeah, I don't know. It's somewhere around there. It's all like 2010 to 2014. That was the last time All-Stars actually cared about the dunk contest. But obviously, I think it's obvious that I'm gonna go with Jaylen Brown winning the dunk contest this season. So
I'm looking it up here, making sure so just looking at some of the dunk contests over the years, it's amazing the NBA didn't push for more stars or just more relevant players, period. Like Royce O'Neal, you can't go out there, lace him up, dunk. You can't like just somebody relevant go out there, because some of these dunk contests, it's like, all right, Glenn Robinson the third, he did win a dunk contest, but
Where is he now?
honestly, what other where else do you know Glenn Robinson the third outside of the dunk contest in Michigan? You can't name an NBA moment of Glenn Robinson. He played with the Pacers, he played with the Wizards. You can't name a moment. There has to be more emphasis on putting more star names in the dunk contest and not just putting freak athletes, because sometimes the freak athletes, it's like there's only so many dunks you can do, right? And sometimes the face value of who's in the dunk contest matters more than the actual dunk being put forth sometimes. Because
I would say
dunks, it's like, oh, great dunk, it took you 4 attempts. But if a star player can go up there and LeBron can go, whoo, on one attempt, it's like, oh, geez.
See, I would say the last time they had like a name was Donovan Mitchell back in 2018, which I kind of forgot about. But
he wasn't
I kind of forgot,
yet.
and because he was a rookie that year, and rookies didn't make the All-Star game. So, but yeah, D-Mitch, I remember he won it. But outside of Donovan Mitchell and outside of Zach LaVine, you got Glenn Robinson, Hamidou Diallo. He's currently in the G League right now for the Wizards, I think. Hamidou Diallo. Derek Jones Jr., who's on the Mavericks. Anthony Simons, who's I would say he's a better player than most of the people who's won it. Obi Toppin, who's on the Pacers, and Mac McClung, who's in the G League right now. And I'm not going to disrespect Mac McClung because he did put on one of the better dunk contests that we've seen in a while. But the fact that you did have to bring in a G Leaguer who kind of had to save your contest is kind of sad.
Yeah. Bring in Jordan Harrington. Where's he at? I mean, what are we doing? Bring him on. Where's his blue hair? How are we justifying Mac McClung in this tournament? Just bring on you guys remember a long while ago, it was like probably 2018-19 range, where after TNT games they would show the Dunk King. You guys remember that show? It's like, where are all those guys? Like, we can't get those some of those dunks you'd watch them after you'd watch a real basketball game, watch the Inside the NBA crew talk about a real basketball game, goof around, and then the Dunk King would turn on, and then it would be like, what? Like, what are these guys doing right now? And then you're looking at it going, why can't we have this in the dunk contest every single year? And
they're gonna start getting the guys that do the 2K dunks, like the guys that have to do the 2K dunks for the video game. They're gonna have to start getting those guys for the dunk contest soon.
It's about the name and the ability to dunk. Like, that's really what the dunk contest is becoming about. And I will say Jaylen Brown is leading the way right now in getting the stars to participate again, because although I believe you could go one of two ways. You could either go, and this is where it's like this competition, it's almost a mix, where on one hand you have the internet star essentially in Mac McClung, because let's face it, Mac McClung is not a legitimate NBA player outside of being a dunk contest participant, being a G Leaguer, right? And on the other hand, you have the star. So you could go the internet route where you're just pairing up guys like, oh, Mac McClung, like, oh, can you get Jordan Harrington? He might be out of his prime by now. It's 2024, but could you get other internet sensations, right, who are making up new dunks and who are constantly blowing up across
Get them in the celebrity
social media?
I feel like they would do that at like a celebrity game.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they would do that for the actual NBA dunk
But,
contest.
but that's what I'm saying is you kind of had the mix of like, okay, you're kind of doing that with McClung, but then you could go the other way where you have Jaylen Brown in the contest. Well, imagine you have Jaylen Brown and 3 other stars who are legitimate all-stars or legitimate players in the league in general and not eighth, ninth, seventh men in the league. Have legitimate starters or stars in the league who might have a relationship with each other, might not have a relationship with each other. We know a lot. Like, look at Isaiah Stewart tonight in Phoenix and Drew Eubanks. Put them in the dunk contest. Come on, NBA.
Yeah, I
Put
don't
them
think
in the
that'll
dunk
work.
contest.
Put
That's
them
where
in
we
a
want to be.
boxing. Put them in a boxing ring in the middle of the All-Star game. I'll take that.
UFC.
Hey,
fights.
you know they got the whole LED lights thing this year, so
that'll
I
be
could
cool to
see them
watch.
make a boxing ring with the courts. We'll see. I think it's important that Jaylen Brown does well in this dunk contest this year
Yes.
because if you really think about it, like you were saying, if Jaylen Brown does terrible and makes a fool out of himself, which I really hope that doesn't happen, that would mean like every other All-Star will probably steer clear from it from now until whenever the next guy wants to do
The
it.
end of time.
But if Jaylen Brown does well, let's say Jaylen Brown does well, he wins first place, he wins second place, but he makes the final and he puts on a show. I know a very good friend that Jaylen Brown has that tends to play for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who is also performing on Saturday night, who is also a really good dunker.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing a Jaylen Brown, Anthony
Yeah.
Edwards dunk contest next season.
John Morant. We could start throwing in those names. Zion Williamson, who we thought when he was drafted was going to be in the dunk contest every year. Hell, even LeBron James has even thrown his name around for doing a dunk contest before he retires. I think those names would be great, but I I think that Mac McClung has been preparing for this. This is what Mac McClung is basically around the NBA for. It's just for this time of season, just to come around and get the G League.
I don't want to make this. Oh no, sorry, Rico.
Yeah, but yeah,
I was gonna say I don't. I don't want to make this comparison, but it's like Pete Alonso in the MLB home run derby.
yeah.
How he only takes it seriously. Like he's like one of the only people that I actually take it seriously. Yeah, it's like him in the home run derby. That's what Mac McClung is. At least that's what it looked like last year.
Well, that's what makes these competitions a little interesting is adding in those G League guys, adding in those outsiders who are not exactly NBA players and putting them in competitions with NBA players on an NBA stage on national TV. You are enticing real competition within those guys, at least. Now, some of these other NBA players, they might be coming in here. We might see Tyrese Maxey, Trae Young, and Scotty Barnes completely fold in the skills competition because we were asked to do this and we're going to collect the check. We're going to leave, right? But another team, now not in the skills challenge because we don't have another G League team, but say Rising Stars challenge, say Mac McClung in the dunk contest, those guys are going, look, I'm never on TV. I'm never on TNT. I'm never on ESPN. I'm never seen with any of these guys. But where I want to be is amongst these players out here in the NBA. And this is part of my chance. This is an opportunity in which I am going to perform in front of a large crowd, in front of lights, big lights on a big stage. And no matter what happens, no matter what we think about these competitions, like, oh, yeah, they're really nothing. There's going to be some noticeability from some of these players we never see in the G League because let's face it, we're focused on the Celtics. We're focused on the Nets. We're not focused on the main Celtics or the Long Island Nets. But when these players get their chance to showcase themselves in front of us, we're going to notice some things in which we didn't before, or we're simply going to see players in which we've never watched before or only watched a tad bit of. So this competition or any of these competitions will matter for a lot of these players. We're kind of just maybe looking past in some situations just a little bit. And in the dunk contest, I believe Mac McClung, this is a contest in which is made for him to win. And what we saw last year, it was evident early on, oh my goodness, he's going to walk away with this dunk contest win. But Jaylen Brown, can we get a star to win this competition? Can we get a star in the
Bring
final?
back,
right?
yeah, bring
Can we
back.
get-
I will say, I was gonna say worst case scenario, bring back Gerald Green out of retirement.
Can we get like Gerald Green, Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown dunk contest? Like that'd
be wild.
that.
Could you imagine if like Jaylen Brown dunks over Isaiah Thomas? Like how Gerald Green jumped over Nate Robinson? Can Jaylen Brown dunk over Isaiah Thomas?
Let's also spread awareness for this too. Nate Robinson needs a kidney, folks. So
True.
test yourself. If you're compatible with Nate Robinson, he needs a kidney right now. Just spreading awareness to whoever we can, even though we're fairly tiny program, do the most you can, no matter what. But yeah, I think we should get old guys involved in All-Star Weekend events more often than we do sometimes. And what's hard about that is sometimes you do have to shell out checks if you're the NBA to get some of those guys at All-Star Weekend. But you never know. I know from a more philosophical perspective from fantasy land, Celtics land. It's like, oh man, could we see Jaylen Brown? Could we see Terry Rozier? Could we see like Isaiah Thomas come back? But I like just thinking about that concept. It's like, could we see other old players who might still be dunkers who are seasoned in jumping? Like they can still athletically get up and dunk, right? But they may not be in the league anymore. They might be playing overseas. Like, could we eventually do something like that too, where we get more of those type of players involved? I wonder. The dunk contest, it's always a revolving door. It's always a evolving contest because no matter what happens, you're going to have these ebbs and flows of 2016, amazing Aaron Gordon versus Zach LaVine showcase. And then the next year, or 2015, Zach LaVine went nuts. And then 2016, Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine face off. That's an absolute nutty competition. And it's not that the format of the dunk contest changed. It's who was in the dunk contest over time. But, who you're getting involved, it's certainly a big question for the NBA and how they go about all these competitions, because as we see a new competition on the horizon, and I'm most excited about this particular contest because it's new and it's something we've never, ever seen before, and really something rare in sports. Man versus woman 3-point contest between Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu. Guys, this one is probably one of the more interesting competitions we've ever seen, ever, at All-Star Weekend. We've never seen cross league WNBA, NBA competition quite like this. There have been some skills challenge moments in the past, but
yeah,
straight
that's
up,
what I was thinking. The skills challenge,
straight up 3-point contest between two players individually. That's something completely different and something we've never seen before ever. And I'm interested to hear your guys' takes on who you guys think will walk away with this competition win. And I'm going to start with you, Franco.
I mean, two of the greatest shooters of all time for the sport. I haven't gotten myself familiarized with the rules of what they're doing. Assuming that Sabrina is going to be shooting from WNBA
yeah, she's
lines
shooting
and
from WNBA with her ball.
Yep. I think I guess I gotta go. I would have to go Curry from just the fact of just I feel like Curry's just very prepared for these types of things, and I wish that we got to see him like hold a NBA crown and be in the 3-point competition every single year. But I think that just I think Steph Curry will solidify himself as the best shooter all around the world.
Okay, so personally, I'm going to preface this now. I am quite the hater of Steph Curry, and this is also for charity, which Steph Curry hates. So I don't really know how evolved he's going to be. That's a joke, but also not. Look up Steph Curry and affordable housing. But anyway, I'm not going to lie to you. Even without that, I'm still going Sabrina Ionescu. I don't care. I'm going Sabrina Ionescu. I think there is a lot more pressure on Steph Curry to be good in this contest, unless he doesn't really care about that, which I don't know if he actually cares or not. But I'm not gonna lie. I've watched Sabrina Ionescu. If you look up her 3-point contest this season, is either this season or last season.
She set a record.
But she set a record, and she had more than Steph did in the 3-point contest. And she's using her ball. She's using her 3-point line. And honestly, I don't care if anyone discredits it, even if she wins. Like, oh, she did shoot from the NBA 3-point line. I don't care. I don't care if she shoots from the NBA 3-point line. I think if she's a better shooter in her contest, she's going to do her thing. That's pretty safe to say, honestly. So, honestly, even with the fact that the WNBA finals ended like a long time ago, which she was part of, I'm still going Sabrina. I'm going Sabrina. I don't care.
All right, so I'm looking up odds for this match right now because it's interesting to pick. It's interesting to pick and think about the narratives that exist behind this competition. And right now, the odds on DraftKings, right now, Steph Curry is a minus 280 favorite, while Sabrina Ionescu is a plus 200 underdog. Super juice there by the books, but you guys essentially get that Steph Curry fairly significant favorite right here. Not crazy significant favorite, but fairly significant. I'm gonna lean Ionescu here, and I don't know if my reasoning is gonna come across as I don't know, controversial or whatnot, but right here, the odds for this competition, Curry versus Ionescu on different standards in a competition we've never seen before, ever. And somehow this is plus 200, minus 280 on either side. I don't understand how it's that far of a discrepancy right now. And I understand how the market has bet that up to that. But I don't see it being in the favor of Steph Curry because I think this might be a narrative competition, guys. It might be a narrative competition. It might be a competition in which raises awareness for the WNBA for whether people or not want to call my take, like controversial or not. But this particular competition going on, I don't know how to term this, what the production in which they're about to throw on, right? The NBA and the WNBA, because the NBA is very close linked with the WNBA. The production in which they're about to put on, I believe Ionescu is going to win the competition, and it's going to be used as a narrative for, look, the WNBA, the quality within the WNBA is just as good as the NBA, and we have players in the WNBA who are just as spectacular and just as talented as the best players in the NBA, such as Steph Curry, who is a dynastic figure and somebody who, if we look back at this era of basketball in 10, 20 years, is easily going to be the face of this era of basketball. If she beats him in this competition, I believe it's a huge, huge narrative shift for the WNBA and, of course, for individually Sabrina Ionescu. And that's why I believe Ionescu is likely going to walk away with this title. And I believe potentially the money shift here, I don't understand how it's been bet all the way towards Steph Curry's side because with the standard of smaller ball at my 3-point line, Ionescu has the record. What makes people think, oh, this is Curry's competition? He should be an almost 70% favorite right now. I don't see exactly that being. I don't see how that's the case exactly, and I believe the market is a little off on this one here, which I understand the market is typically never off, but I plus 200 Sabrina with the narratives that exist with her talent. It's not as if this is we're not playing a basketball game, guys. We're not playing the NBA finals right now. This is the NBA All-Star Weekend Saturday night. This is going to be a competition in which Sabrina can undoubtedly win, and that is why I'm going to go with Ionescu. And this could be a big moment for the WNBA and the NBA.
All I'm saying is that the narratives are going to go absolutely insane if Sabrina actually wins.
I just don't see
Like,
a
Twitter
world
will
where,
go
like, can you guys
absolutely
picture
insane.
a world where she does awful? Like, for real,
No.
that would put the WNBA
The
under
only
so step
thing
position
that
where it's
I will
like,
say
oh my
is
goodness,
that
this went backwards.
the WNBA season ended like 3 months ago. So that's the only thing I'm going to say is that it did end like a while ago. But she's probably been training since then.
Well,
So
let's pull this out. Sabrina, fresh legs, doesn't have to play right now consistently. Whereas Steph Curry, he's got to pull the weight of this entire Warriors team coming into All-Star break. He might be thinking he might not play. Let's see, the Warriors. Let's just research this real quick. The Warriors, have they already played their last game before All-Star break? Is this right now they're playing? So this is their last game before tomorrow will be their last game before All-Star break. So Curry will presumably play tomorrow after tonight, which is a back-to-back, right? So back-to-back. And then he won't play again on Friday, but then he's traveling to Indianapolis for Saturday. I mean, the tired legs versus Sabrina, time off. I'm just saying. Why is that not a factor in this competition at all? Minus 280 DraftKings. I understand there's a lot of juice here, but man, I don't agree with this market at all. I know markets are quite efficient, but my goodness, I don't believe I was not of the belief that it was going to be this high of a discrepancy. I was thinking more like minus 160 for Steph, not all the way minus 280. I don't see it. But I think in the end, Ionescu, I think she's going to pull it out. That is the last competition on Saturday night. And on Sunday, the East-West format for the All-Star game returns on Sunday. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, of course, playing for the East. And they were presented with their All-Star jerseys earlier tonight. They were looking quite dapper out in mid-court. Of course, Jason Tatum, he was in the headband, and Jaylen Brown, he was in his street clothes. But of course, he always looks quite dapper in his formal wear coming into the arena when he's not playing. And of course, he had to put down the popcorn a couple weeks ago just to show it off. But those guys received their All-Star dues tonight, and the ovation from the Garden crowd before they go off to Indianapolis. But on Sunday, guys, East versus West, who do you guys have in the All-Star game? Franco, start with you.
I'm gonna have to go with the West right now. I mean, stacked up roster wise, I think the West is more talented all around, like player wise. However, I think the East has better teams. You also have these veteran players who have played together in the Western Conference for a while. You got LeBron and Kevin Durant who have played together. Kevin Durant, Curry, and LeBron who have always been around each other. Paul George, Kawhi, just a lot more veteran experienced players who have done this before, and I think it's going to be an entertaining game, and I would like to see it carried with a little bit more weight, but if it does come down to it, I think it is going to be the West coming away with it.
all right. I'm going East. I don't care. I know we have no big man depth, and that was Adam Silver's fault because he chose Scotty Barnes and Trae Young over Kristaps Porzingis and Jared Allen. But I don't care. Jason Tatum repeat All-Star Game MVP. Book it. He's being interviewed during the All-Star Game this year. You know, they have that thing where they get to choose his shoes. I don't know if you saw that. Like Jordan's letting you vote on choosing his shoes for the All-Star game.
You already know it's going to be it's the worst of the three pairs. It's got to be. It's going to be like
It's got to be the Mama's Boy ones, though. I like those personally. I would go with those, but that's just me. I don't know. I feel like Tatum doesn't take the All-Star game for granted, like a lot of people do. It feels like so. Why not? Jason Tatum back-to-back All-Star Game MVP.
I think if you look at the entire East roster, there are just simply more guys in their prime. There are more guys to take over this All-Star game and make it their own in their era, right? We have Giannis Antetokounmpo in this All-Star game, Jason Tatum, of course, in this All-Star game. And what's unfortunate is Joel Embiid. This was about to be his All-Star moment as well. Of course, he's not playing, but Boncaro, he makes the All-Star team as a second-year guy, and I think he's going to be an All-Star. That we saw Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum early on in their All-Star careers because they were selected. Jason Tatum in 2020, Brown in 2021, his first time, respectively, those 2 years back to back. Those years, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they weren't quite the top All-Stars. Like Boncaro's not quite the top All-Star this year, but they fit in when they were given minutes within the game, and I think we're going to see that from Boncaro. Tyrese Halliburton is, of course, emerging. Donovan Mitchell, he's well within his prime right now. The Cavaliers, they're rolling. So I'm going to go with the East relative to the West, too. I believe you have a couple of players out West. Yes, LeBron James, a lot of All-Star accolades behind him at this point. Does he really care about All-Star MVP? Does he really care about another All-Star win? I'm sure LeBron is competitive to some degree when it comes to All-Star weekend, especially when we've seen the track record of when he picked teams. He was, if I'm not mistaken, LeBron's team was like undefeated for like 4 years with his All-Star team when they were picking squads. If I'm not mistaken,
Up until last year.
It was some streak with LeBron consistently of winning All-Star games. So there's some competition still there, but some of the older players, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, he's one of the league's best players, but he's not a player that really fits into the All-Star game. He doesn't really care about the All-Star game. He's going, wait, this isn't efficient basketball. What are we doing out here? Like he's going to make some tremendous pass within the game, but Nikola Jokic's game is surely meant for the regular game of basketball and not this style of game whatsoever. And so I just think the East have more players in which I believe can make this their All-Star moment and want to make this their All-Star moment, whereas the West, you might have a couple of older guys who not necessarily looking to grab the spotlight, and even some players who I believe just maybe like Nikola Jokic maybe don't quite fit into the All-Star game mesh to the extent where they're going to put up 30 points or 40 points. I will say the one hope for the Western Conference, though, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If he goes off in this game, I mean, that could be it for the Eastern Conference. You could see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if he really wanted to, he could probably put up 60 points in this game if he comes into the locker room and goes, I'm just going to do whatever I want, which I'm sure is going to be hard next to all the other star players coming into this game. But that's the one young player I look out West and go, if there's a player who's going to take over this All-Star game for the West, it's going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. However, I think there are more players eligible in the East to do such a thing as take over the All-Star game, which is why I'm going with the Eastern Conference. And this weekend, we will see how all of our picks turn out. And before we hop off this broadcast tonight, because we talked a lot about the All-Star game, the Celtics go into All-Star break 43-12. They come away with a 50-point win over the Brooklyn Nets tonight. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the first half of the season. I mean, it's not quite first half. We're a little bit over the first half mark of the season, but generally All-Star break, we consider that the halfway point of the season. So far, 43-12 for the Celtics. They're rolling right now. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on where you see the Celtics going the second half of the season. And so far, what has been the best aspect of the team and what has been an area in which the team should improve on or can improve on in the next 35 or so games. Franco, we'll start with you.
Jesus. I think this team has really proved it's ready for its run this year. It came up very short in the past couple of years, and coming into the All-Star game this year, it's a different feeling. The past few years, it's been all right. Are the Celtics going to be able to get the number one seed going into playoffs? This year, I don't really even check the standings more than once or twice a week just to see where the teams are moving. I'm not the teams in the rearview mirror for the Boston Celtics are nowhere near anywhere near concern. What the Celtics need to do is be able to maintain this pace and cruise control. It's the debate of the tortoise and the hare. I mean, they could have the fast start, but some of these teams that are slowly gaining momentum, you look at the New York Knicks, who were active during the trade deadline. They made their moves and they want to make their push. Miami Heat always breathing down the Boston Celtics necks, and they do not care about the first 82 games of the season. They care about what's after them. And other than that, it's just being mindful of what's killed them in the past.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of feels, I don't know. I had mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, but the feelings when we watched the Celtics back in 2021-22, ironically after the All-Star break, like that team had a different feeling than the team obviously before the All-Star break and the team last year, like the entire season. It felt like it just felt like they just weren't prepared. It just kind of felt like they were just doing stuff, and obviously they were talented enough to win all these games, but they weren't really, it just didn't really feel right. But this season it does feel right. It does take me back to that time back in 21-22 when it did feel like this team was a legit contender and this team is legitimately the most talented team in the NBA. Like you said, the only thing we can do is keep everybody healthy, make sure Kristaps Porzingis is healthy, more specifically heading into the playoffs. I don't really care if that means you have to stop making him play the last 2 weeks of the season or however long we have to do for him to stay healthy. Just make sure he's okay. Make sure Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White, make sure Horford's good to go. Make sure all these guys are ready because this is the year that they're going to have to do it. This is the most talented team the Celtics have ever had. This has to be the year that the Celtics go out there and they win the championship. They finally get over the hump.
Yeah, and this year's Celtics team, I believe, is the most versatile squad we've seen out of the entire Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown era. And I don't believe the mainstream media is giving this squad enough credit because we may be in the midst of a Jason Tatum MVP campaign season and also a championship season for the Celtics. We may be covering this season all the way through for the Boston Celtics, and we may not know it yet. And I don't believe the narratives created out there around this team are quite accurate because we're in the midst of a potentially historic stretch. The Celtics could be an all-time great team looking back at themselves for the versatility on the roster, for the star names on the roster, for the depth on the squad, and there's still another roster spot to be filled at this point in time. Going into the All-Star break with 43 wins on the season, a lot of teams will not even reach 43 wins this season. And we're going into the All-Star break with 30 plus games left on the schedule with 43 wins. This is exactly where the Celtics want to be at this point in time. Yes, there was a little bit of a lull there at the end of January into February where the team didn't look optimal, but the last 3 games heading into All-Star break, ending with the cherry on top, a 50-point win tonight. The Celtics, I believe we're in the midst of a special season for the Boston Celtics right now, and it's all unfolding under our eyes. And we finally made it to All-Star break. Of course, tonight the Boston Celtics take care of business going into their break. Now, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown will, of course, be at the All-Star weekend in Indianapolis over on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, dunk contest for Jaylen Brown. He'll be participating in that competition. And of course, on Sunday, both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum will be participating in the NBA All-Star game. So we will have you guys covered for those events. We're still planning our content schedule around that. However, we should have some type of coverage around those events. However, the next post game, a little while away, all the way February 22nd on a Thursday, we come back against the Chicago Bulls, and the Celtics. They're going to be barreling downhill for the second half of their season, starting on that Thursday, February 22nd at Chicago. Yet tonight, this was a great, great, great dominant win to come out with to end the first half of the season, the metaphorical first half of the season for the Boston Celtics, a 50-point win over the Brooklyn Nets, 136-86. Guys, this is all we have for you tonight on the Celtics Talk Weekly postgame show. Talked a lot about the All-Star game, but we also talked a lot about this game as well. Thank you all for listening tonight. I am your host, Seamus Zarlingo, aka at Celtics Every Day. Above me right here at Ian Angelo, aka Ian Anangelo, and of course Nick Franco, aka at Boston Sports Hour. Don't forget to hit up all of our social medias on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, along with the Celtics Talk Weekly social media. So, like I always said,
Almost forgot our we have to
oh,
talk
yes. Franco, thank you for reminding me. Tomorrow we have a very special recording coming up, and it should be likely releasing on Friday
or Saturday.
Friday or Saturday. Mr. GRD, Green Runs Deep, will be recording with him, shooting a couple of hoops with him. Not really shooting a couple of hoops. We're shooting the shit with him. How about let's just talk. Let's just tell it how it is, because that's exactly how we're gonna do it when GRD is on here as well. We're gonna be shooting the shit with GRD about the Celtics, about of course the All-Star weekend coming up, and just about All-Star or it's about basketball in general. So look for that on the horizon on the Celtics Talk Weekly YouTube channel. And of course, we'll have clips out there when the recording comes out as well. So do not forget to check us out and do not forget to miss that. But for tonight, that's all we have for you guys on the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. As I always say, thank you all for listening, and go Celtics.